This is fascinating. A few
Mhm.
weeks ago, we were talking about after the Izzy Costa fight, what's going to happen? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Robert Whitaker? Then after the Robert Whitaker fight against Jared Cannonier, oh, it's going to be Whitaker. He's won 2 in a row. And who was sitting in this chair, in this spot, telling you that it's going to be Izzy versus Jan, that it could have even been in December, but Jan's having a baby, and everyone's like, Izzy versus Jan, how does that make sense? And what does Dana White say over the weekend? I spoke to Izzy. We tried to make the Whitaker fight. He has no interest. We're doing Izzy versus Jan. Izzy is moving up to 205 and going after the belt that Jon Jones just vacated. And now he's saying, oh, yeah, John, I'm going to go take your belt as well. I mean, can I get some credit?
Giving yourself credit, but last week we also said it's not a great look for Izzy to go up now. Like we just talked about this. Like we talked about this last week. Look, I love it. I love it. I love it for the fact of, that if Izzy wins, it does lock him into that Jones fight.
Does it though? Does it?
It kind of locks him into the Jones fight unless he goes back to 85 like Amanda and just kind of goes between divisions defending. But even if he goes back to 85, when he comes back to 205, it will be Jones. And I think that's why I love this fight so much. But hey, I'm not just going to go and look past Jan Blachowicz, man. I've seen Jan Blachowicz do some insane stuff lately, and he can put anybody out. And if he gets a hold of Adesanya's going to be in trouble. But the reality is this. Who gets a hold of Adesanya? I think Adesanya is as good as they come in the entire world.
Wait a second. Are you saying that Izzy is biting off more than he can chew? Is he looking at Jan as an easy fight, and that's why he's moving up now? Is this GSP going?
I think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people look at the 205-pound division. I've heard, dude, in Fight Island, in other places, as I had conversations, so many people believe that the belt at 205 is going to start to kind of just switch hands. They don't believe that there's a guy that's going to just hold on to it. I don't know if that's the case. Blachowicz seems to be getting better, and he's beating guys more and more impressively. So it's a tough fight. Look, man, I think it's crazy how much success guys going up have had in those higher divisions, right? Me beating Stipe the first time and all that. But in Bellator, Gegard Mousasi just beats up on these little dudes. Every time the little dudes go up to 85, he beats them up, right? So you don't know what's going to happen whenever you get a person going up in weight to try to challenge the champion at the division higher.
20 pounds is a big jump. Izzy has fought at a higher weight, so he's used to it. Let me just lay out the scenario like this, DC. So Whitaker wins, right? And they say, okay, it's appealing. Now, as I told you, it's not appealing to Izzy. And to be honest, I don't disagree. He just beat him a year ago and it was fairly one-sided. It's going to be hard to get excited for that fight. And I do want to throw out one thing. I spoke to Whitaker last week, so I would know. The way it was painted on Saturday night from Dana White was he doesn't want the Izzy fight. Whitaker never said that. He never said it to me or anyone else. He just said, I'm not going to campaign for it. I'm not going to sit here and beg for it. My wife is pregnant. She's giving birth in January. So he never, I don't want people like Whitaker's the nicest guy in the world. I don't want people to say like he doesn't want Izzy or doesn't want the belt because he really never said that. But if he's having a baby, right? If his wife is having a baby in January and Izzy wants to fight in February, the timing just doesn't work out. So what's the next best option? It's Darren Till versus Jack Hermanson. But DC, that fight is happening in December, right? So the timing doesn't really work out because Izzy wants to be active and he wants to fight in February. The winner of that fight's not going to turn around that quickly and fight Israel. So I agree with the notion, hey, there's nothing going on that's interesting for Izzy right now. Let him do something fun. Let him move up, right? And Jan, okay, maybe there aren't some big money matchups for him. I get that. But DC, if there's nothing going on for Izzy right now and we want to move up, why don't you just do Izzy versus Jon Jones right now? Why don't you do that fight? Isn't that?
But it makes sense. It makes sense. But I love the slow build. Like I've told you this time and time again. I love the dancing around the fight actually happening. So I don't hate it so much. And it does build intrigue if you can put a title on the line, which you don't need Jones and Adesanya.
You don't need a belt for that.
But if Izzy can win, I think it adds something to it if you can put the belt on the line.
Okay, so Izzy moves up, gets the belt, and says, hey, Jon, look at me. I just got your belt. Do we believe that Jon... Okay, so Jon knows the game. Izzy just told this to Submission Radio. He said, this is the biggest troll move to Jon. I go up there and take his belt after he just vacated. But then Jon's not going to reciprocate as he's moving up the heavyweight and go, let me just sit right, let me come back down to, he's going to be like, okay, have fun with the loser belt is what he's going to say. Have fun with the paper title. That's what he's going to say. He's going to try to diminish that and say, I never lost it. That's not the real champ. And I'm not going to come down and entertain you. It's going to be this. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the Izzy Jon fight isn't going to happen. I feel like this is going to go down as one of these.
Round and around and around until they meet in the middle.
But when? Izzy's.
We are in line for a bunch of insults, a bunch of pity actions, a bunch of gibbering and jabbering. One guy going, Jon Jones going, I'm not going to give him the time of day, but then doing exactly that, giving him the time of day. Izzy just continued to poke and prod, and eventually, boom, they'll end up fighting.
Well, Internet Izzy is returning next week because he's in Vegas and has to quarantine again because he's there to corner his good friend Carlos Ulberg, who is fighting on the Contender Series on Wednesday. So he's going to go back to Internet Izzy in a couple of days, and we'll get him for 2 weeks in quarantine again. So it will probably come then. All I'm trying to say is, why would Jon Jones come down to fight Izzy if he's already on his way to heavyweight? If Stipe and Ngannou meet in March, which appears to be the case, then hopefully the winner is ready to go against Jon Jones in the late summer.
Does Jones win, and who does Jones fight in the time being? Who's Curtis Blades fighting? Derek Lewis
coming up
very soon. Curtis Blades wins. I say put him and Jones together.
No, look, you have two money fights for Jones right now. You have the Izzy fight or the heavyweight title fight. Let's be honest. The last three fights were trending in the wrong direction with Jon Jones. I thought he lost to Dominic Reyes. You can't risk putting him in there against someone else and having him lose, and now you got no money fights.
But then Ariel, he's not going to fight since when did he fight Dominic Reyes?
February.
So Stipe and him fight in March. Jones won't fight until July, August next year.
I know. It's a problem.
Get him in there with somebody else.
That's why I say do the Izzy fight now.
I do the Izzy fight, or let him fight one of those guys. Let him fight the winner of Lewis and Blades and see.
Risky.
Because if Curtis, here's the problem. Curtis Blades wins against Derek Lewis with the wrestling, unless Derek did show after we fought that his last fight, his takedown defense has gotten better. He actually was able to get back up to his feet when he got taken down. So he showed that he's improving. If he wins, if Derek Lewis wins, sit Jones. Curtis Blades wins, you let him fight, and then whoever wins goes into the title fight with a ton of momentum. Because if Jones beats Curtis Blades, he beat the toughest, scariest guy in the division outside of the champ. If he loses, now Curtis Blades just beat the supposed greatest of all time. So it now makes him legitimate and a person that's been in this. Bro, we always talk about the rub. You put Curtis Blades in there. That's why if Curtis Blades and I could have fought, and if he would have beat me, it would have made him, okay, you fight anybody now because you get the rub of fighting those longtime guys. I got it from Jones. I got it from Hendo. I got it from Anderson. All those guys that I fought that were higher level than me at the time, it raised my profile. And Curtis Blades needs that. I mean,
But you understand what you're doing here? You're basically saying Izzy Jon is not happening.
Right now, because Izzy's fighting Jan. Now,
when's it going to happen?
Hey, listen. If Izzy and Jan fight in January, and then Jones and Izzy, if they can fight sometimes around April, May, that kind of keeps them in line to fight in the fall against the winner of Miocic and Ngannou. You got to keep him in line with the heavyweight champ, even if he's fighting at 205. Because
risky.
I believe that Jones at 235, which is what he's at in off-season, is still viable contender at heavyweight. I fought there. I've been in there with the best heavyweight. I know that he can compete with these guys.
In a vacuum, I'll say Izzy moving up to 205 is fun. I think it's a fun fight. It's the biggest fight that Jan could get. Obviously, it's the biggest fight that you can make for Jan. Izzy has nothing going on at 185, so I don't hate it because no one's being held up. The division isn't stalling as a result. All I'm saying is I fear that we're not going to get this Izzy Jones fight as a result. Like this, I think we're going to look back on this time and say, this was the time to make it. Their rivalry is as hot as ever. They've got nothing else. Jon is waiting for the heavyweight title. Izzy's waiting for a middleweight contender. Just make the fight. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're making that fight. And I want to be clear. It's a fun fight on paper. I'm excited, but I just wish they were going with the Jones fight because that's the bigger fight.
I think that, but you can't get always the bigger fight. And I think this one will be big. Blachowicz is not sitting there and going to just sit and let his title get taken away.
No, I know.
He's going to be ready to fight, man. I think he's going to be ready to fight. And Izzy has to understand that, but Jan has to try to mix things up. He's got to wrestle a little bit. I know he's not a great wrestler, but if he has to just stand with Adesanya, he's going to be in trouble. And because as I've said on this show very recently, if you're just standing with Adesanya, you're probably getting beat. So dangerous.
And what about the fact that in 5 days, the fight that we thought was going to be the number one contender fight, Thiago Santos
It's
versus
now
Glover.
just not. What is it for now?
Yeah.
What is it for?
Why
What
did
is
they
the fight
wait?
this weekend for now?
I have no idea. And
You're
can I be
Thiago
honest with you?
Santos. You're mad because
And
if you
Glover.
beat Glover and you got to win over the champ, you're like, this is my path to the title.
Hey, how about Glover Teixeira, 41 years old? The guy reinvents himself. We thought he would never get another crack at Jones. Here he is on the cusp, and they're like 7 days out. If you're one of those fighters, aren't you demoralized right now?
Oh, my goodness. Well, but here's the problem. You can't even think about that. You can't start trying to think about what happens next because then you lose this weekend and it doesn't matter what happens next. It's like you got to stay in the moment right now, even though everything around you is just changing because for the last 8 weeks, right? Because when did Jan win the belt? 6-7 weeks ago?
No, a month ago, 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, right. So for the last 5 weeks, you've been under the impression in preparation for camp that you're going out there to earn a title shot. And if you're Thiago Santos, you're like, I beat this dude before. I knocked him out. I have a way. I know I can win. I have proof that I can beat him. And now you're looking at it like, but it might not happen now because if Adesanya wins. But if you're Glover, that's who's mad. Glover Teixeira is mad because every day that passes at 41, it makes it a little bit more tougher for you to believe, achieve, or conceive the idea that you're going to be the champion of the world, you know?
There it is. Yes. The timing is funny. Like they could have waited 10 days to say that. It does feel like it took the air out of that balloon, but it's a good fight. And that's the next main event that goes down on Saturday.